Welcome to NTD Evening News. Our top story tonight, a powerful warning from the Oval Office to Iran. President Trump floats the idea of using lethal force on the country if it refuses to make a deal to limit its nuclear program. 3 air traffic incidents in one weekend, including a fatal crash in Minnesota with no survivors. Here's what we know so far. Are student visas a thing of the past? Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirming at least 300 have been revoked. A professor and an attorney join us to weigh in on the debate over student visas. How much does the phrase mind over matter play into our overall health? Brendon Fallon, host of NTD's Vital Signs, spoke with an expert to learn more. And a mesmerizing light display we know as the Northern Lights has been spotted 3 billion miles from home. A closer look at the first ever images of Aurora Borealis on the planet Neptune and the rest of the solar system.
This is NTD Evening News, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Tiffany Meyer. President Trump is floating the idea of using military force on Iran if the country refuses to make a deal to denuclearize. As tensions grow, Trump told NBC in a phone interview, quote, "If they don't make a deal, there will be bombing." Trump added, quote, "It will be bombing the likes of which they have never seen before." That's if the Iranian regime doesn't comply. Washington has also hinted at imposing more tariffs if Tehran does not lessen its nuclear activity. At the same time, the Iranian president reiterated his policy on Sunday. An Iranian spokesperson says the path for indirect negotiations between Washington and Tehran remains open. That's despite the fact that nuclear tensions between the two superpowers have been rising. Trump emphasized that he doesn't want the conflict to get worse. A small aircraft crashed in a forested region in Somerset, New Jersey around 10:30 this morning. It was headed for Raleigh-Durham International Airport in North Carolina with only the pilot on board. The FAA is investigating. The incident follows the death of at least one person after a crash in Minnesota Saturday and an air traffic control incident in Washington, D.C.
The professionals at the FAA take their jobs very seriously and strive to ensure safety every day. But the fact of the matter is, we have to do better. We have to identify trends. We have to get smarter on how we use data. And when we put corrective actions in place, we must implement them with diligence.
Zooming into the Minnesota crash, the small plane departed from Iowa before crashing into a house in a Minneapolis suburb. The residents of the home were not hurt, but the house was destroyed. The FAA says it's not yet known how many people were aboard. One day earlier, a mid-air collision was averted near Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. A passenger flight preparing to leave the nation's capital and an incoming military jet received instructions to divert and prevent a possible collision. That's according to officials. Delta Airlines Flight 2983 was cleared for takeoff the same time 4 U.S. Air Force aircraft were inbound, according to the FAA. The incident comes just 2 months after a mid-air collision above the same airport that killed 67 people. The January 29th crash between an American Airlines passenger jet and an Army helicopter was the deadliest U.S. plane crash in more than 2 decades. An update on the devastating earthquake that struck Burma, also known as Myanmar, and neighboring Thailand on Friday. The death toll has now surged past 1,700, with thousands more injured and over 300 still missing. Those numbers come from the ruling military authorities. The U.S. Geological Survey estimates the 7.7 magnitude earthquake is the largest to strike the area in a century, and the final death toll could reach 10,000. Let's zoom in.
Myanmar declared a state of emergency in some parts. Several people were killed when a mosque partially collapsed, and local media said others died as a hotel caved in. In Thailand, officials said one of at least a few people were killed under the rubble of the partially built skyscraper. They added that dozens of workers were rescued from the building's remains, but many are reportedly still trapped. Bangkok's city authorities declared the capital a disaster-stricken area, saying they needed to assess and monitor damaged areas. Here, hundreds rushed out of buildings onto the streets in panic, And during the tremors, water spilled over the side of a tall hotel building. One Thai office worker saw his building start to sway side to side.
At first, I didn't realise it was an earthquake, but then I saw the table shaking, and the chair and computer started swaying too. I only knew for sure when I heard the noise of the cracking walls and cracking glass. Part of the ceiling even collapsed. That's when I had to run out.
The United States Geological Survey said the quake was of 7.7 magnitude and at a depth of 6.2 miles. It was followed by a powerful aftershock. The epicenter was just over 10 miles from Myanmar's second city of Mandalay, which has a population of about 1.5 million. The country's army-run TV showed collapsed buildings and debris strewn across the city's streets. Myanmar's fire department said it had started a search to check for casualties and damage, but had no further information.
Aid groups are racing to find survivors, but damaged roads, communication blackouts, and shortages of medical supplies and heavy machinery are severely hampering rescue efforts. The earthquake comes 4 years into a civil war sparked by the 2021 military coup. The country's military junta made a rare plea for foreign assistance in the wake of the disaster, but the BBC reports that it has continued conducting airstrikes in parts of the country hours after the quake. From another major investment in American manufacturing to the takedown of a top MS-13 gang leader, the Trump administration had another fast-paced week. NTD's Daniel Monahan has the key takeaways.
On Monday, Hyundai announced a $20 billion investment in the U.S., including nearly $6 billion for a new steel plant in Louisiana.
Since Inauguration Day, President Trump has secured trillions of dollars in private and foreign investments.
Magazine editor Jeffrey Goldberg said he was mistakenly added to a senior officials group chat discussing military strikes on the Houthis in Yemen.
I'm sitting in a Safeway parking lot watching my phone and realizing, oh my God, this might be real.
Democrats called for an investigation.
This kind of carelessness is how people get killed. It's how our enemies can take advantage of us.
National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard said the National Security Council is conducting an in-depth review.
No classified information was shared. There were no sources, methods, locations, or war plans that were shared.
President Trump imposed a 25% tariff on imported cars and key auto parts under the Trade Expansion Act. Canada responded.
And this is a direct attack, to be clear, a direct attack on the very workers that I stood in front of.
The administration says the tariffs will boost domestic production and strengthen supply chains.
If they're made in the United States, there's absolutely no tariff.
Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem was in El Salvador on Wednesday to visit a mega prison holding deported alleged gang members.
If you come to our country illegally, this is one of the consequences you could face.
And speaking of gangs, Attorney General Pam Bondi announced the arrest of a top MS-13 leader, speaking on Fox News.
This guy was living in a neighborhood right around you, no longer.
This was a very violent individual who was picked up in a home with 5 children present, so our communities are safer.
Meanwhile, EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin has terminated a $2 billion grant awarded to an NGO linked to Stacey Abrams.
They received only $100 in 2023, and then the Biden administration gave them $2 billion.
Abrams recently defended the NGO on MSNBC, saying it was set up to replace old appliances with more efficient ones in households.
Let us invest the money of America in lowering the cost for Americans. And the EPA said, okay, great, go for it.
Vice President J.D. Vance addressed soldiers at Quantico on Wednesday, saying under President Trump's leadership, a very simple principle is followed.
We don't care who you are, where you came from. We don't care what skin color you are. We care about excellence and we care about patriotism.
Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was in Guam on Thursday. Hegseth says the U.S. hopes to have a peaceful relationship with Communist China.
But we also stand with our allies to defend against that encroachment and defend American interests.
With major investments and a tough-on-crime agenda, the Trump administration continued to carry out its vision of a safer, more prosperous country. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
The Federal Communication Commission said it is opening an investigation into diversity practices at the Walt Disney Company. FCC Chairman Brendon said he opened the investigation over concerns the company is pushing diversity policy that doesn't comply with government regulations. In a letter to Disney, Carr said he heard Disney walked back some of its diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, but he cited concerns that the company may be violating equal employment opportunity policy. He wrote that Disney started out as an iconic American company, but reports show it went all in on various forms of diversity policy in recent years. The letter referred to reports and whistleblower accounts, saying the company uses race and gender-based criteria in its operations. He said he wants to make sure Disney is not promoting forms of discrimination through these policies. Switching payrolls from the U.S. to Communist China. An American think tank warns that China is recruiting fired government workers plus AI researchers with clever listings on websites like LinkedIn. More on the potential loophole from U.S. national security concern. NTD's Flora Hua brings us the story.
A Beijing recruitment campaign appears to be targeting former U.S. government staff. China is busy sending job offers to former governmental workers like intelligence officials and AI researchers amid waves of layoffs. That's according to Max Lesser, a senior researcher with the Washington-based think tank Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Lesser told Reuters that he uncovered a broad, sophisticated Chinese campaign behind numerous work ads. It's made up of 4 consultancies and recruitment companies. Although they have different names, these companies run websites with links that funnel users to the same web page. What's more, all of them share the same IP address, which is also used by Chinese IT service firm as Miao. Reuters said the IT company's website became inaccessible during a U.S. investigation. Max Lesser pointed out that the Chinese headhunting scheme appears identical to old tricks used by Chinese spies. He warns that once recruited, former U.S. government workers could be asked to share sensitive information or asked to recruit other targets. So how much attention are these help-wanted ads getting? One of them advertised a job for a geopolitical consulting advisor. The job listing says applicants must have experience with government agencies, plus international or multinational organizations. As of the time of this report, a LinkedIn post revealed that more than 200 people have applied for the job. The recruitment ads are running through top U.S. hiring sites like LinkedIn, plus other platforms like Craigslist. Beyond that, similar ads have also popped up on social media. This one, posted on X, encourages, quote, global talents to pursue career development and entrepreneurship in Shenzhen, China. The metropolis is known as one of China's top technology hubs. It appeared in February, right after institutes like the Center of Disease Control, the National Institutes of Health, and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration laid off around 4,000 scientists combined. While there's no obvious proof that the Chinese regime is behind the scheme, under Chinese laws, all firms operating in China are required to hand over data and intelligence if Beijing asks for it. CNN reported last month that China and Russia are targeting disgruntled U.S. government employees. Lesser says his current findings could be concrete evidence of those operations. Flora Hua, NTD News.
Coming up, are student visas a thing of the past? Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirming at least 300 have been revoked. A professor and an attorney join us to weigh in on the debate over student visas. And how do our mental states influence our physical health? NTD's Brendon Fallon, host of Vital Signs, spoke with an expert to learn more. That in just a minute here on NTD News.
What has lasted 5,000 years was once almost lost. Now, the world awaits the divine culture's return. Shen Yun. Looking for a healthy and smooth-tasting brew? Drop by Days Coffee Roasters today, and and explore our wide selection of specialty-grade, small-batch roasted coffee. Home to North America's first enzyme-fermented coffee, we source a wide selection of specialty-grade coffee beans from around the world, and our baristas are ready to craft your customized brew. Visit Days Coffee at 28 North Street, Middletown, New York. Come experience a brew like no other.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Being a cowboy, I don't know anything different. I had a very successful career. Life was fast. I was preparing physically. I wasn't doing anything mentally. And then I got hurt. I dug into mental health. I wanted to be better as a person. I start my day with a workout. I live life 8 seconds at a time. Find a place to stop and just breathe. Love your mind.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. College campuses back in the spotlight, this time over student visas getting revoked and international students deported. Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirming at least 300 student visas have been revoked so far. This comes amid the administration's crackdown on pro-Hamas foreign students. Here to break it down are 2 guests, Jeffrey Bloodworth, professor for modern American political history at Gannon University, and Gerard Felitti, attorney specializing in international law. Thank you both for being here. Great to have you. Now, Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying he hopes the number of revoked student visas is more than 300. Let's actually play a clip of his comments on the matter.
We gave you a visa to come and study and get a degree, not to become a social activist that tears up our university campuses. And if we've given you a visa and then you decide to do that, we're going to take it away.
You're saying it could be more than 300
sure,
visas?
I hope. At some point I hope we run out because we've gotten rid of all of them. But we're looking every day.
And Jeffrey, starting with you, what do you make of this move and how will it impact college admissions for international students next year?
Well, this is something that's not generally known, but many universities, even flagship state universities, depend heavily budgetarily on international students who often pay full freight, the whole tuition tag. And if the administration's visa policy, it could drive down international enrollment to American universities. And you'd have states then that are pressed to fill in the budget gaps for state universities. I mean, national security always comes first. But this is a downstream effect of these policies that if we look to the fall, and I guarantee you, admissions and president's offices at every university in America is worried about this and sweating about the fall numbers of international students.
So it sounds like there is that monetary fallout. But on the legal side, Gerard, we did see President Trump sign an executive order in January to restrict or retract student visas from Hamas supporters. Now, that's due to what he called an unprecedented wave of vile anti-Semitic discrimination, vandalism, and violence against our citizens, especially in our schools and on our campuses. From that legal perspective, where is the line between, say, free speech and getting one's visa revoked?
The line should be pretty clear that this is not what has been happening on college campuses has exceeded the bounds of speech and into the realm of conduct. When you are taking over buildings, when you are blocking access to campus, when you are targeting Jewish students with harassment, intimidation, and discrimination, that's not speech that's protected by the First Amendment. That's conduct that could get you arrested and it could get you deported. So I think that that's a very fine line. We're also seeing Secretary Rubio rescinding the visas, the immigration status of people who are here engaging in support for terrorist activities. Now, that is a national security issue. It goes above and beyond what we're talking about free speech protections, because quite frankly, there is a limit on the rights of foreign students who are here on visas. They have to act in a manner that's different than what Americans can under the law.
And on that note, Jeffrey, we've seen multiple high-profile cases coming in, I'll say, Columbia University, Tufts, and the University of Alabama. Now, as a professor yourself, what have you seen regarding, say, activism from international students? Is it widespread or a select few?
Look, this is a problem at elite universities. I teach at a university, and we have about 20 to 25% of our student population are international students. And these are hardworking kids who just want to get a degree and get ahead. Are they concerned about the wider world? Will they talk about politics in the classroom and during office hours? Absolutely. But at most universities, this is far from a problem. It's an issue, at elite universities. And I don't want to downplay that. But most international students, they don't want to to derail their careers, right, and the dreams of their family, who are bankrolling this by getting engaged in political protests.
Now, zooming in on one case, Gerard, in the case of the Tufts student, a district court judge has ruled on Friday that the government has to respond by Tuesday to an updated complaint by her lawyer. Where do you see this case going? Does the government have a strong enough case to deport her back to Turkey?
The government absolutely does. The government is following what is explicitly written in U.S. law. So unless the Supreme Court at some point weighs in to find the entire Immigration and Naturalization Act unconstitutional, then according to law and precedent, this student is entirely deportable. And whether or not this district judge weighs in and says so, this will be a process that will actually have to play out in immigration court before it gets to the federal bench. So all of this is a lot of legal maneuvering to say that the precedent is there to deport this and many other students. And it's also worth pointing out to the professor's point that about 6%, 1.1 million of America's higher education students are foreigners on visas. And we're only talking about a very small number of them in the hundreds, maybe 1,000, that have participated or participate in this horrific activity. The net effect of that very small number has been such a traumatizing effect on the entire education system that it's a very good thing that it's finally being dealt with.
And Jeffrey, zooming out a bit here, it's not just the pro-Palestine wing that's in focus. China is another one. We have Congressman Riley Moore. He introduced the Stop CCP Visas Act. That's following several cases where Chinese students have been caught spying on U.S. military bases or stealing advanced technology from American companies. It's co-sponsored by 5 Republican lawmakers. Now, considering that Chinese students make up around 25% of all international students in the U.S., they're the second largest group after India, which means a lot of funding, as you're pointing out earlier. What do you make of this kind of legislation that targets such a vast group of students?
Well, I'm not sure we need any specific legislation to deal with this problem. We dealt with this during the Cold War. We had all kinds of students from across the world who would tilt towards the Soviet side. Look, some surely were engaged in espionage. Some would engage in protest. Some would just write an op-ed, as my understanding of what that Tufts student did. We have decades of experience of dealing with potential espionage from students or whoever it might be. I think the laws we have on the books are kind of up to the task of managing this. I mean, we managed it in the Cold War. I believe we can manage it in the 21st century.
And Gerard, you and I have spoken about the China threat in general many times, but in terms of this legislation, it is true that there have been cases of Chinese students spying or stealing IP from companies and military bases. But can the U.S. legally just stop handing out student visas to an entire country?
It can, especially if there is a national security justification for doing that. We're not looking at a protected class. We're not looking at discrimination on the basis of religion, for example, selectively determining that people of a certain religion can't enter the country or a predominant religion can't. This is a targeted list of students, essentially, of countries. And we've had this before in our history when we've been more restrictive with visas or the ability of foreigners to enter our country from specific places, especially when we had the Cold War from countries that were within the Soviet sphere of influence. So this is something that has been supported and sustained by courts before. This is entirely procedurally valid, and there shouldn't be any legal impediments to this. It is, however, a political issue, and it's hard to see where especially Democrats are going to come down in support of this.
A lot to watch out for here for sure. Jeffrey Bloodworth, Gerard Felitti, thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, how do our mental states influence our physical health? NTD's Brendon Fallon, host of Vital Signs, spoke with an expert to learn more. And thousands of locals and visitors are flocking to Washington, D.C. to catch a glimpse of the city's famous cherry blossoms as they approach peak bloom. Hear what the locals have to say in just a minute here on NTD News.
The bladder control aisle. You won't shop here again. Your private business is your own. The constant struggle is over. Now there's a better way. It's HDIS. We home deliver bladder control products. We understand how you feel. For over 25 years, we've home delivered to many of the 20 million Americans who deal with incontinence. We offer all brands. We pay shipping and use plain, unmarked boxes. If we can help you or someone you care for, call for your free product sample pack and $45 in money-saving coupons. Our counselors will help you choose the right product. And unlike stores, we're always in stock. You'll get what you need. Satisfaction guaranteed. HDIS, the better way.
For your free sample pack with your free catalog, $45 in money-saving coupons, and free product samples, call 1-800-701-6159. That's 1-800-701-6159.
Tangazo hili linahusu njaa. Tarajia kuona watoto wakiwa na njaa katika maeneo haya. Mambo yalikuwa bora kwa miaka mingi. Tuliweza kupigana na njaa na watoto wachache walikufa. Lakini sasa mambo yamebadilika na kwa mabaya zaidi. Hii ni kwa sababu wakati huu ukame umeangamiza zaidi.
Через війни та конфлікти ми мусимо залишати наші домівки і всі наші речі. Ми навіть не маємо їжі. Тому нам потрібна ваша допомога.
Millions of children are fighting to survive due to inequality, conflict, poverty, and the climate crisis. Save the Children is working alongside communities to provide a better life for children. And there's a way you can help. Please call or go online to give just $10 a month, only 33 cents a day. We urgently need 1,000 new monthly donors in the next 30 days to help the children we support around the world. You can help provide food, medicine, care, and protection, plus so much more that a child needs by calling right now and giving just $10 a month.
Ви можете допомогти голодуючим родинам вижити.
All we need are 1,000 monthly donors in the next 30 days. Please call or go online now with your monthly gift of just $10. Your donation today can help secure additional grants, which can multiply the impact of your support up to 10 times. And when you call with your credit card, we will send you this Save the Children tote bag as a thank you for your support.
Toto kote duniani потребують вашої допомоги.
Your small monthly donation of just $10 could be the reason a child in crisis survives. Please call or go online to givetosave.org to help save lives today.
Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. The phrase mind over matter has been repeated for hundreds of years, but how much does it really impact our overall health? One doctor suggests that in some cases, like for those who suffer from migraines or backaches, looking beyond physical causes to what's happening in your life and in your mind might be able to help. In his latest episode of Vital Signs, Brendon Fallon interviewed Dr. Schubiner, a leading expert on chronic pain and mind-body medicine.
Dr. Schubiner, wonderful to have you join us on Vital Signs today.
Thank you so much, Brendon. It's a pleasure to be here.
I've had the opportunity to look over some of your work recently, and it's really inspiring and really spurs on the imagination to think about how so many of the maladies that we face could be resolved potentially through the mind. Just as a start, Dr. Schubiner, could you illustrate this concept a little bit for us, that pain is created in the brain?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, this is how the brain works. This is really a revolutionary concept in thinking about medicine, because modern medicine, you go to a doctor, you have a disease, you have something that's wrong, they do tests, they find the problem. You have appendicitis, we'll take it out. You have cancer, it needs treatment. Those are structural disorders that need medical treatment. So medical treatment can be extremely effective in those cases. But there are a whole host of maladies where there's no actual structural damage in the body. And the revolutionary part about what we're doing is, and I base this on 20 years of experience in doing research on this, is that most people with chronic pain actually don't have a structural damage in the body to account for their pain. The pain is real. It's not imaginary. It's not fake. It's not their fault. They're not crazy. But it's because of how the brain works. And what you were alluding to, I'm sorry for the long introduction here to get to the answer, but what you were alluding to was that our brains literally create what we experience. We don't see with our eyes. Light comes in our eyes, but our brains create the images that we see. It's the same with hearing. And when you touch a hot stove, it's not your finger causing pain. It's actually the brain. And so the brain can create pain that is real in the presence of physical injury, obviously, to protect us. And it can also create pain in the absence of physical injury when there's something going on in our lives that might be particularly stressful or emotional. And that is mind-blowing when you see it on an everyday basis.
And no doubt you have been seeing it on an everyday basis, Dr. Schubiner. I wonder, what is the starting point to work with someone who has chronic pain from this standpoint?
The first step in doing our work is medical, is making sure that there's no structural medical problem. People can have back pain because they have a tumor, a fracture, an abscess in the back. You know, there's medical diseases that can occur. But as I mentioned, we did a study where we took 222 people, we evaluated them for chronic neck pain and back pain, and 98% of them had abnormal MRIs. But very few of them had the serious MRI, like the abscess or the fracture or the tumor or something. The vast majority of them had these mild abnormalities that are also seen in healthy, normal people. So we need to separate out people who have structural problems from people who have what we call neuroplastic or mind-body conditions.
And looking at someone who has chronic pain from a mind-body syndrome standpoint, could you walk us through how therapy would play out? I know there are two main therapies, pain reprocessing therapy and emotional awareness and expression therapy.
Right. Let me start with the basic one, which is the pain reprocessing therapy. Once we've diagnosed that it's a neuroplastic problem, once we've ruled out a medical structural problem, and we've educated people on the nature of the brain and how the brain can create these symptoms, the pain reprocessing steps are to begin to notice the sensations that one has with less fear and less worry about them, because the more fear of the pain, the more the danger signal creates more pain. And for example, if someone's having back pain when they're walking, what I would do is help them to calm their brain while walking, even starting with imagining walking, with soothing messages to the brain that I'm safe, I'm not in danger, and I'll be fine. And giving your brain that message and then starting to walk bit by bit with those messages to unlearn that pain. In terms of the emotional components, we have to identify, so where is this coming from? Is there something going on in your life right now that was causing pain? So one of the stories I like to tell from my own life is 2 years ago, my hospital was going through major budget crisis. And I've been a doctor there for 20 years. And I worked really hard at being a really good doctor there for 20 years, employed by the hospital. But the budget crisis was severe, they had to make cuts. And one of the cuts was me. And so I lost my job, and with 1 month's notice. And it wasn't their fault, really, but I started getting back pain. And I tried to calm my brain and soothe my brain because I knew I hadn't injured my back. But after a while, a few weeks of that, I was still in pain. And I started to realize, like, geez, what am I feeling about this, you know? Because it turns out that emotions cause the exact same parts of the brain to light up as does a physical injury. So the real pain I was having was due, in this case, due to the feelings that I had about being kicked aside. And I was angry about it. And I was in my car one day. I started swearing and screaming, you know, about the hospital and the medical system and the whole thing, getting all this anger out in a safe and healthy way. I didn't do any physical acts of violence, right? It's never a good option. But I got the anger out, and then I could let it go. And I could begin to forgive the hospital. And I allowed the hurt to come and the sadness. And I turn the hurt and sadness to compassion. And you can do that through writing. You can do it through a bunch of exercises that we have. And we've done research, randomized controlled trials on all these methods, showing that these methods are actually more effective than the standard psychological method. So once I did all that emotional work, it only took 20 minutes. Okay, 20 minutes. Anger out, letting go, calming, forgiving, feeling sad, feeling compassion. My pain disappeared on the spot.
For more details, check out NTD's Vital Signs with Brendon Fallon. The program zooms in on health and wellness in everyday life, connecting the dots for the big picture of our composite health. Find it on epictv.com by clicking the Talk Shows tab. The New York City subway isn't exactly well known for kindness and compassion. The system and its riders face challenges like crime, rats, and roaches. But lucky commuters at one station on Manhattan's Upper East Side have a reason to smile. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the story.
That's right. Say goodbye to winter. Happy spring, everybody. Have an awesome day, too, while we're at it. Awesome day. Good morning. Happy spring, everybody. Good morning, spring. Happy spring is right. That's right. Say goodbye to winter. Happy spring, everybody. Good morning.
This isn't the kind of greeting most New Yorkers get when they descend into the matrix of the city subway system. But commuters at the 86th Street station have a reason to smile. That's thanks to 71-year-old MTA worker Rodney Smith. Smith greets every commuter. His cheerful demeanor and warm welcomes have turned him into a beloved figure at the station.
Rodney is just the spirit of joy and happiness every morning for everybody on this station. And in a world where everybody is insisting to be serious, he is deciding to be happy. And I love that.
Before his current role, Smith was a bus and train operator. Now he gets to interact a lot more with the public. As commuters walk past, he explains how happiness is a choice.
Happiness is an inside job because it's all on you. It's all on you to decide whether or not you're going to be happy, no matter what you're going through in your life.
Matt Conley, a 58-year-old commuter, highlighted the importance of Smith's role.
Because he doesn't probably have to do this, but it's who he is. And if I look over, what you see is there's a smile right there. There's going to be folks who anticipate to come down the escalator. They actually look to see if he's here.
A fist bump, casual conversation, and even hugs are spreading joy under the city. Smith says it's a lifestyle.
I wish that everyone just be kind, all right? Be kind, sprinkle that stuff all over. Kindness is free. That's what I believe, and that's how I live my life.
Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Coming up, a mesmerizing light display we know as the Northern Lights has been spotted 3 billion miles from home. A closer look at the first ever images of Aurora Borealis on the planet Neptune and the rest of the solar system. And what's the most cost-efficient way to find food? African elephants know the way. That's according to a new study. What conservationists hope the new findings mean. That and more in just a minute.
I don't remember how it started. Our back and forth. Victory. Fumble. Repeat. it always came back.
Dad! Okay, here we go, throw it! Yeah.
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I had heard many times that heart disease is the #1 killer. It went in one ear and out the other, frankly. I never had a health issue. I felt this slight pressure on my chest, just slight. But a few days later, while shopping at a boutique, that pressure returned much stronger. By the time I got to the ER, the doctor decided to give me a CAT scan. He said, "I don't think you understand. You are on the verge of a heart attack." I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the adjacent artery. I received 2 stents in my arteries, stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. That's why I'm in front of you today, asking you to join me in supporting the American Heart Association by becoming a monthly donor. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. With you by our side, together we'll keep fighting this battle. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives. I'm so grateful to the American Heart Association. Their research helped save my life. Put yourself on your to-do list. It could be the most important thing you ever do. Please, listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did. So please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now. Join me as a monthly donor today and help save even more lives. Thank you.
Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Meyer. One of nature's most brilliant light displays now confirmed to dazzle the skies of every planet in our solar system. New images from the largest and most advanced telescope in space reveal Aurora Borealis, or the northern lights, on the planet Neptune for the first time ever.
The signature green, pink, and purple ribbons of Aurora Borealis have dazzled people for millennia. But the northern lights aren't exclusive to our little blue planet. NASA's James Webb Telescope has now captured snapshots of the display nearly 3 billion miles away, dancing in the frigid, distant skies of the planet Neptune. The planet was the final northern lights holdout, meaning our entire solar system experiences the light show. Though the display does look very different from planet to planet. Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars all have ultraviolet aurora. Just like Earth, Venus has green northern lights. Mercury's lack of atmosphere means aurora appears as X-ray fluorescent light, and both Uranus and Neptune get the display at their equators instead of their poles. The northern lights happens when particles from the sun get trapped in a planet's magnetic field and collide with its atmosphere. Astronomers have long suspected that Neptune might see aurora thanks to hints from missions like NASA's Voyager 2 in 1989. But it wasn't until the piercing eye of the James Webb that it was confirmed. The ultra-sensitive telescope is able to see near-infrared radiation outside of the spectrum of light visible to the human eye. The discovery gives insights about Neptune's temperature and atmosphere, which will help scientists better understand our 4th largest planet.
The sun is setting on the Sundance Film Festival's time in Park City, Utah. After being in that location for more than 40 years, the annual event will move to Boulder, Colorado in 2027. Last April, the Sundance Institute announced it was looking for a new host city for the festival, and Boulder beat out the other 5 finalists. Institute officials said they assessed various factors, including city infrastructure and event capabilities, before making their selection. Colorado Governor Jared Polis said he is thrilled with the decision to pick Boulder. The world's premier classical Chinese dance company taking the stage for its opening night at New York City's prestigious Lincoln Center. Shen Yun Performing Arts delighted audience members there, taking them on a 5,000-year journey from ancient China to the present day. Here's what some theatergoers had to say about the experience afterward. NTD is a proud media sponsor of Shen Yun.
It's extraordinary. The dancing and the choreography and the costumes are just breathtaking.
This is a divine experience. It's incredible. Never seen anything like this. The dancers are so precise. The music is perfect.
Well, I liked it very much. I think it was powerful. I'm very impressed by the dancing.
And I really enjoy with the big screen in the back and coming from the stage to the screen. That gives it gives it a lot more depth, so it's something that makes it more enjoyable for me anyway.
The spectacle of it, the scale of it, the sheer number of performers, the synchronicity of the performances, it's unbelievable.
Since 2006, Shen Yun has toured the world with a mission to revive 5,000 years of divinely inspired traditional Chinese culture from a time before communism. And every season, its artists bring an all-new program with original dance, music, costumes, and backdrops.
Everyone needs to come and see Shen Yun, educationally wise, culturally wise. It is a very important part of Chinese history, overall culture and history for our world, and important to Americans also.
And everybody always thinks what they had was better than what they have now, but you have to teach the next generation that. And I think this shows that you guys are doing it very well.
Shen Yun will continue to perform at Lincoln Center in New York City until April 12th. NTD News, New York.
Thousands of locals and visitors are flocking to the Washington, D.C. tidal basin as the cherry blossoms reach peak bloom. The famous pink flowers arrived in Washington as a gift from Japan back in 1912. Here's a closer look at them.
The cherry blossoms are always a welcome distraction, if you will, whether it's from winter or anything else that's going on. It's Washington's grandest springtime tradition. It goes back to 1912. This is the 113th year that we're getting ready for cherry blossoms around the nation's capital.
What you said, new beginnings, and looking at these blooms, and we're hopeful, and it's bringing a new energy and new excitement to DC. I think we need it during these times, and I think it's just nice to be calm and just be with nature and be with other people.
Visitors this year will have to contend with slightly diminished access to the tidal basin, usually home to the highest concentration of the trees. The National Park Service is in the middle of a 3-year renovation project to shore up the basin's aging seawall. More than 100 of the trees had to be cut down as part of the project, but will be replanted. The season's Cherry Blossom Festival runs from March 20th through April 13th. Elephants know the best way to get food without tiring themselves out. That's according to new research published in the Journal of Animal Ecology. Researchers used GPS to track more than 150 African elephants. That's over the span of 22 years in northern Kenya. The data revealed the elephants actively select areas with higher vegetation, and the vast majority, 94%, also chose landscapes with lower movement costs, meaning they avoided rougher areas with steeper slopes. Researchers say that suggests the elephants are aware of what's around them and make choices on which paths to take to preserve energy. Using estimates from satellite data from organization Save the Elephants, researchers built models to explain the elephants' choices in migration. Conservationists hope the new findings could help protect the endangered elephants and their habitat. And on Friday, Genjing World hosted its Kindness is Cool Video Awards, celebrating global acts of kindness on its family-friendly digital platform. Winners, influencers, and dignitaries gathered to recognize the power of kindness in storytelling. Prize-winning videos were displayed on the NASDAQ billboard in Times Square. NTD's Chris Bob has the story.
I'm in Times Square in New York City, right in front of the NASDAQ billboard, where Ganjing World is hosting their hashtag Kindness is Cool Video Awards Winners Celebration. I just spoke to James White, a songwriter who won the Gold Prize, which includes a $10,000 cash prize for his video Hero in Uniform and song Born to Rise, which were inspired by veterans who led Hurricane Helene relief efforts.
I was watching all these amazing veteran-run organizations like Aerial Recovery. They were risking their lives, saving people literally from drowning. And I was so moved. One weekend, I was moved to tears. And I had to write a song. Our hope is to take this seed capital and then do something much larger so that organizations like Aerial Recovery and their trusted partners can continue to do these amazing acts of kindness.
James sent me a message and said, hey, I've got some money, I won this prize, and I'm really excited to share it with Aerial Recovery. Even in some of the worst times of life, humanity really does rise up, and the kindness campaign is exactly that, right? People are going through the worst times of their life, but it's people from all over the nation, all over the world, are sending prayers, sending supplies, sending money, sending people to come out there and help those that are in the greatest time of need. So it's a perfect alignment, and I'm thrilled to be out here to support this event too.
The competition attracted more than 26,000 submissions from participants across more than 50 countries, with entries presented in 11 languages, collectively amassing over 10 million views across 150 nations. The hashtag Kindness is Cool movement was awarded a citation by New York State Assemblyman Brian Cunningham, delivered by his chief of staff.
I've seen the back end of social media where people are not always inclined to act through kindness. So I think that them doing it through the platforms and then making it incentivized also does create a greater impact. So in terms of that, I'm on board. I think that this was a great initiative, and then you can see the impact here today. It brought a lot of creators out, collaborators, and on top of that, it used the platforms in a positive way. So I think it was a good idea on their end.
All of the 26,000 Kindness is Cool videos are available for you to watch on ganjingworld.com. Chris Bob, NTD News, New York.
And that's all for today's news. For round-the-clock coverage, visit us at ntd.com/live or download our NTD app. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tiffany Meyer. Good night.